Hey y'all, back with Cardboard Kingdom. Welcome back to another Disney Lorcana video. Today we want to talk about why every card in Disney Lorcana is currently underpriced. I think that there are some amazing deals out there right now. I think that if you are a true collector and you have passion for some of the singles, there are prices that simply cannot be beat, and so we want to talk about those today. With that being said, before we get into the actual undervalued segment, I do want to put you guys on to something that's undervalued in its own right. Right now, the Disney Villainous game is currently on sale on Amazon for $9.50. I will have a link to it in the description. This is where you get the Prince John Gold Lover promo. On TCGPlayer right now, the lowest list for this card I think is around $12 or $13, give or take, and you can get the entire game for $9.50. So I would definitely recommend grabbing yourself one of these. $10 shipped to the door, and you have a nice little alt art. This is the only place you can get it. You'll be relaxing in style with Prince John there, taking a nap on all your money from getting a nice game for you and the family, and also getting a nice little Lorcana card. So putting that on your guys' radar. So going back full screen here for a second to set the stage, and then we'll get into the numbers and just some general ramblings. This is definitely going to be a rambler video for my TikTok brain rot people. Buy the cards that you like, and you'll be just fine. But for the people who like to hear me rant, this should be a good one. So I've just been thinking a lot about lately how a lot of the sealed stuff has started to rise quite a bit. A lot of the cards though are really just lagging behind, right? We see the first chapter get $400 a box pretty much just as like a baseline. Sales are starting to slow. Obviously, less and less of them are being opened. Therefore, less and less enchanteds are hitting the market from the first chapter. And really, as of late, the only singles that have moved tremendously are like the Stitch, and I mean 20%. It's gone up about 20%, so I'd say that's tremendous. And then Elsa, same thing. It's had sales over the last couple months around like 600 to 700. Right now, currently sitting at about 950 for a near mint copy. So I would say apart from those two, really nothing has moved. And that is just it's a indication of the fact that the collectors are still not here, right? And while there's me and there's you and there's plenty of collectors here, in the grand scope of Disney Lorcana, there is nowhere near the amount of collectors that will be and that I think could be or will be here at a given time. Now, once again, I've talked a lot about how I think we have this powder keg brewing of Worlds, of Fabled, of Pixar. We've got all this stuff kind of coming down the pipe, and I feel like more now than ever, there is more people involved in this TCG ecosystem than there ever has been. And I just feel like once they find out about Lorcana, the cat's going to be out of the bag, and we're going to be kicking ourselves for not picking up cards that we truly like and we truly want to collect. And that's why I think in terms of TCGs right now, there is just nothing that matches what Lorcana can give you if you truly want to collect. If you want to speculate, Pokemon, there's infinite liquidity there. You could buy a card tomorrow and it'll go up 100x. There's no doubt that Pokemon is where the liquidity is and where there's a lot of collectors. The same could even be said for like Magic and One Piece in terms of just overall liquidity right now. But if you are a collector and you are like myself and you have a connection to these cards, whether it's with your daughter, with yourself, your family, whatever, I just think that the Lorcana is completely unmatched in terms of what it can offer. And the reason why I think that is because even the most printed cards, right? Something like the Elsa, the first chapter Enchanted that's been reprinted and reprinted. It's been printed in different countries. It's still getting printed today. When you look at things like the PSA Pop Report, it is mind-blowing how few there are out there in coordination with some of the bigger trading card game chase cards that exist, right? So I'm going to do some comparisons to Pokemon because I truly think that is the only thing that you can compare Lorcana to. Right now, there might be more liquidity in Magic, there might be more liquidity in One Piece, but at the end of the day, none of those games come anywhere near the collectability of what Lorcana can be, and so that's why I think it only makes sense to look at what Pokemon has done and is doing when we talk about just like prognosticating. It's the only game that makes sense. The people that collect Magic, that's great. People that collect One Piece, that's great. I'm not taking away from that. There's just only one comparison for Lorcana, and it just happens to be Pokemon, in my opinion. Okay, so with that being said, we're going to get into some numbers here and just talk about why I think every card is undervalued. And this is really geared specifically towards collectors and like enchanted cards and things like that. But at the end of the day, this could apply possibly to even like set cards and things like that. As the pie that it currently exists in Lorcana grows, I think that we could see this change exponentially across the board. So looking at a card like the Moonbryon, this is kind of the modern day Charizard, in my opinion. Right now, the lowest English available on the market is currently at auction it's already at over 2,000. It's got 3 days left. And then the lowest buy it now, everything looks good on that. Just make sure it's not like a different language or anything, is 2,200. It's interesting that this one has 3 days left and it's already like, it's like right there. So 2,200 is the lowest buy it now on the market, which in my opinion, this card is like the modern day Charizard, right? This is the chase of the chases. It is the modern, it's the card that if you're a Pokemon collector in modern times, like you need a Moonbryon in the display, right? This is just the current Grail. It's the current Charizard, like I said. Now this card is one that it was selling for over 3,000 in a PSA 10 just a few weeks ago, and we see that there's some really drastic price swings here, coming back down to 2,200. When once again, I think in January and February and even March, I had sales at north of 3,000 for this card in a PSA 10. So we're starting to see it come down a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's still at 2,200, still a significant premium, and still a fantastic chase card. Now, when I look at something like the Moonbryon, I like to take into account, and this, to be completely transparent, this is a card that blows my mind in a lot of senses because there is just so many of this card. Like I talk about Lorcana and how like something like the Elsa is not as rare as like our Rockstar Stitch Ride or even the Cinderella Ballroom Sensation. And I talk about rarity a lot because I do like to prioritize rarity as a collector, and I think you should as well. But this is a card that it truly, like, it has a limited scarcity, but there is truly no rarity to this Moonbryon. It's hard to pull, right? But it doesn't really matter how hard it is to pull when there is like 100,000 of these copies out there. And when I say 100,000, like, I'm not even being like hyperbolic when I say that. Like, there could very easily be 100,000 copies of this card printed and in existence. And so when you think about rarity and you think about some of the cards that even exist within Pokemon that maybe have like a PSA pop report of a gem mint grade of like, sub 50, you can get some of those cards for like a decent price range, relative to this Moonbryon. And it makes no sense to me. It completely breaks all fundamentals when I look at this stuff as a whole. Right now, the Moonbryon has 22,000 copies that have been graded, and it has 16,276 copies in a PSA 10. So this is a card that in English alone has almost 20,000, or not almost, that's unfair, over 16,000 PSA 10 gem mint copies, and the card is still selling for $2,200. Lowest buy it now was just a $3,000 card, right? And so when you think about how many copies that are out there, it's insane that it's commanding the premium that it is. Multiple $1,000 per copy, 16,000 copies out there. Like, that's a massive market cap as a whole for something like the Moonbryon that, there's, like I said, 22,000 have been graded, but how many haven't, right? Is 1/5 of the population been graded? Is half, right? I don't know. It's probably, maybe I would say, like, if I had to bet, probably somewhere between 50 to 75,000 Moonbryons in existence, just in terms of raw, graded, etc., probably in total. But there are over 16,000 copies of this card in a gem mint grade. It is not hard to grade at all. There's only been 22,000 that have been graded. Over 16,000 of them are in gem mint quality, and it is still commanding a $2,200 price tag. And once again, it was at $3,000 not that long ago. So we use this as an example, and we extrapolate that to Lorcana. and I talk about every card being undervalued and talk about the rarity of some of the cards in Lorcana. When we think about that 16,000 Moonbryon number, and then we look at something like the first chapter, we have a card like Elsa, one of the most graded cards in Lorcana. 3,303 copies have been graded thus far. 2,205 of them have gotten a PSA 10. You can get a PSA 10 Elsa right now for somewhere in the range of like 1,500 to 1,800, give or take. I haven't looked at it for the last couple of days, but it's probably in that price range. So significantly cheaper, 20, 30%, maybe even 40% cheaper than the Umbreon, or we'll call it Moonbryon for this instance. And total population of this card is 1/20th of what it is for Umbreon, right? It's that like Elsa is like a rare earth mineral compared to the Moonbryon in terms of just total printed, right? And so then when I think about Lorcana as a collectible and people desiring these cards, it's got a long ways to go, right? And the reason why the market values Elsa at what she is because we can't see the future. We don't know if Lorcana is going to be around in 5 years. We don't know if Lorcana is going to be around in 10 years. We know that Pokemon will be, right? It's been around for 25 already. And so you can kind of place your bet there with confidence that, hey, this isn't going to go to zero tomorrow. There is a certain element of that exists in Lorcana. And that's why when you have, a character like Elsa as an IP and as an entity is drastically bigger than something like an Umbreon, right? Now, not to shame Umbreon, right? It's a cool Pokemon, very collectible. It's, the modern day Charizard, like I said. But you can't compare the two in terms of overall collectability. A lot more people know who Elsa is than know who Umbreon is, right? And that matters when we look at things like this as a collectible. That matters. You look at something like the Elsa, 2,200 copies in a PSA 10, but it's currently available at $1,500. But you see the Umbreon that has, it was 16,000, so 8x a gem mint supply, and it's still 30 to 40% higher. Like, that just to me screams that Elsa is undervalued, right? Now, I have conviction that Lorcana is going to continue to deliver, that this pie that we currently exist in terms of the collector ecosystem is going to grow exponentially over the coming years. And I think that times like this where you could get a Gem Mint PSA 10 Elsa for $1,500 are going to be by the wayside. And that's not to say that Elsa's ever going to be a $10,000 card, $20,000 card. I mean, look, there's thousands of copies out there in a PSA 10 grade, so that does limit it in terms of the overall upside, and I think there are other cards that have a better likelihood to outpace her, but at the same time, this card is rare when you think about the entire Disney ecosystem, the total addressable market, the TAM that I've talked about a lot. These cards are rare comparatively to a lot of the other cards out there that are commanding a premium. We move over to another card, a card that I think could be absolutely more valuable than the Elsa, the Cinderella Ballroom Sensation from Rise of the Floodborn. There are 800 copies out there in a Gem Mint 10 grade, 1,800 that have been graded. 800 copies of one of the most gorgeous arts in all of Lorcana, one of the most just historic IPs that have ever existed in terms of a media franchise. Cinderella, just the belle of the ball, like the absolute pinnacle of like IPs and collectability. 804 in existence for the entire Disney ecosystem. Like, that seems crazy to me that you can get this card for a Gem Mint grade's probably like $500 for a PSA 10. Like, that seems mispriced to me, right? And I felt like this since inception. That's why when I came in, I spent a lot of money getting these cards because I'm like, wait, like, why are these cards priced the way they are? Like, this doesn't make sense to me. Now, I have, once again, a lot of conviction in Lorcana, and I'm either going to be handsomely rewarded in that, or I'm going to get chopped at the knees, right? Either way, I'll be okay. I don't have any, like I say all this all the time, I don't have any leverage. I set goals. I complete those goals. I set new goals. I'm constantly buying and selling cards. And so I'm not, if for whatever reason Disney said, you know what, we don't like the way you guys are going with this, we're going to pull the plug tomorrow, nothing would change in my financial trajectory. All the bills would be paid. I would retire. I would be set in stone, right? And so that, that's a key point of this. But like, I have multiple PSA 10 Cinderellas. You could not pry them out of my hands for $500. They will not be getting sold. They will be in my collection. You could, go touch grass for $500. You aren't touching my Cinderellas. Same thing goes with some of the promos that I have in PSA 10s. Rockstar Stitch, the first ever trophy card that was awarded. There is 536 PSA 10s in existence for a trophy card that did not come out of a booster pack, that has amazing artwork, amazing IP, amazing character. First ever enchanted card awarded, like 500 of them in existence. 16,000 Moonbryons. Right now you can get a Rockstar Stitch. I think a PSA 10 is roughly around like 700-800. Like, give me this every day of the week and twice on Sunday over a Moonbryon. Like, this card should be worth drastically more than a Moonbryon. If we knew that Lorcana was going to be around here for 5 to 10 years, everyone would buy this card over the Moonbryon, right? Now, Moonbryon has a lot of collectors. This is not to shame Pokemon. Pokemon's huge, right? But at the end of the day, these numbers just do not make sense if you are a collector and if you truly derive value from these cards. It's important to distinguish that. This is not for speculation. This is not for flipping. Rockstar Stitch might be 800 a year from now. I don't know. But guess what? I will be here a year from now, and I'll be continuing to buy it a year from now. And so that's where, like, you know, these cards, I've been sitting on Rockstar Stitches in a gem mint grade for a year, and the price is not really appreciated at all. But I am as convicted now as I have ever been. Now, my downfall is that I like a lot of these cards, and so I have spread out across the entire, you know, ecosystem. They release these products like the Lilo and Stitch box. I love that promo. I have continued to buy that promo almost daily. I wake up, I look to see if there's any under $5 or that I can get shipped to my door for $5. If I can, I buy it. Like, that's like my... I wake up and that's how I start my day. The Lilo and Stitch boxes, if I can get them for under $29, they get delivered to my door. That is, like, I love that product, right? Now, I would probably be better suited with the knowledge that I have to go after these rare cards that are being completely mispriced, like the Stitch Rockstar. $800 for that card is a lot. It's a lot of money, but it's nothing compared to what it could be. And so that's, you know, something like that just makes it's just screaming that it's undervalued. We compare it to some of these cards like Pokemon and the Moonbryon that have 16,000 in a gem mint grade, and it's like, it's not rare at all. There's probably 100,000 copies of the card out there. You then combine with the fact that the other language variants like Chinese, Korean, Japanese, there are over 50,000 copies of that card in a gem mint grade across the board. That is a disgustingly high number for a card that's commanding thousands and thousands of dollars. And so, you know, once again, just, this is not to hate on Moonbryon, but this is more or less to just underscore the amount of value that is currently in Lorcana if you want to collect the cards. The sealed stuff has started to move. A few of the singles have started to move, but the singles have not moved. You can take your pick of the litter of whatever enchanted, right? Whether it's a set enchanted like the Aurora from Marquesia's Island. There's only 18 on the market. Now, this is a newer set. There will be more available. But compare that to something like one of my, like, I love this artwork of the Aurora Dreaming Guardian from the first chapter. 31 available. The card's only $150, right? That's a very cheap enchanted for an IP as big as Sleeping Beauty. The Aurora Waking Beauty, this is a great, just the fact that they're next to each other. Like, can we get a round of applause for the artist? Like, the art has just continued to get better. And Marquesia's Island, I maintain, like, it's definitely top 3, but, like, dude, the enchantments in the set between the Tamatoa, the Aurora, the Jafar, like, it is just, the lineup in this set is amazing. Like, Marquesia's Island is truly just an amazing set. But these cards are not being valued as collectible cards yet. That's why you see things like the Diablo on the front page for 160. That's because it's a meta card, right? Like, Diablo is nowhere near as collectible as like something like the Ariel, right? Ariel, Little Mermaid, certainly bigger than Diablo, but she's, you know, $25 cheaper because there's just not as many collectors here yet as there is players, and that is going to shift. And that's, once again, just to bring it all back, that's not to say that these cards are going to go up tomorrow, right? Or double in price or anything like that. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I know that I want to be well positioned if or should it happen. I want to be here and I want to have these goals accomplished. That way I can appreciate these cards before I get priced out of them. And I think that right now is a great time to be collecting Lorcana. It truly is. Like, and look, I can't see the future. I'm very convicted that, you know, the future is going to be very good for Lorcana, but I feel like in a few years from now, we're going to look back and look at this as kind of the golden age of collecting Disney Lorcana, and there's just not that many of us doing it. And that's the truth of it, right? Like, if you look at my channel and you look at some of the channels that are talking about the game and the meta and things like that, like, they are vastly bigger than me. And look, maybe they're just better content creators, right? I'm not saying I'm good at this at all. I have I'm not very convicted in my ability to do this stuff well, but like the playable side of the game is massive. And that's, you know, once again why you see cards on here like the Diablo that are incredibly high in price because they're playable. There are just not that many of us that are collecting the game. And so I just, you know, I feel like we're in a golden age. I want to, if you feel like you're coming into Lorcana and some of these cards are underpriced, that's because they are. Right, there's just not a lot of us that collect it yet. I am of the belief that people will want to collect them, that people will find this passion in them like we have. And at the end of the day, that's just kind of the story of this video. I mean, some of these cards, like you look at the entire pop report for the 2024 promo list for Disney Lorcana: 100, 100, 100, 100, 96, 54, 64, 73, 243, 176, 72. Like, and look, some of these cards, they have very low pop reports because they're just not that valuable yet, right? So people just haven't graded them. A card like the Hidden Inkcaster, this card's like a $2 card, right? So a lot of them aren't going to be shipped off to grading. But even when they do get graded, they're not going to be anywhere near what it is for a current Pokemon card, right? And you think about some of these, you know, like current chase cards like the Pikachu from Surging Sparks or the prismatic evolutions, like the different evolutions, evolutions and things like that. Like those cards are going to be printed into oblivion. Now look, the demand is into the oblivion as well, right? So that needs to happen. But every time that another print run of 5,000 more Umbreons from Prismatic Evolution happens, the inherent collectability does go down because the supply is going up so much. And right now, Ravensburger just does not need to print that much supply to meet the demand, especially as it relates to collectors. And so that's why if you're collecting Lorcana right now, stay on the path, set your goals, do not get over levered. You're not going to be able to time it. I don't know when it's going to go up. Could be 12 months, could be 24 months, could be 6 months. I don't know. I'm going to stay on the same path I have been for the last year and a half, continue to collect the cards I like. And once again, I mean, I can just say to like a very small degree, virtually every card that I've bought in Lorcana has gone up in value. And that is with really nothing happening that has changed the trajectory to a significant degree, other than just the organic growth that I think is going to continue to happen. It's going to continue to compound. I doubt that Ravensburger is going to go back and reprint these sets, although that is a risk, right? Especially going to other countries and things like that. I absolutely think they should be reprinting these sets and should be getting these these countries and millions of potential consumers onboarded with a good product. I do think that is the right strategy. But yeah, this goes out to my collectors out there. If you feel like your things are undervalued, right? You're wondering if you're crazy. Maybe we all are, right? But I definitely don't think you are. I think that we're just in a magical time right now, and so that is today's message. Lorcana cards, even a set card like the Elsa, while it's printed very heavily and there's plenty out there, right? Thousands of copies out there. It is a rare earth mineral as it relates to a lot of the Pokemon cards. And then you compare the overall collectability. Do more people know who Elsa is, or more people know who Moonbreon is? That answer is very easy, right? So then that makes your decision very, very simple. If you have a core connection. My daughter loves Elsa. I have another daughter who's going to be a year in a little bit, who's going to start watching these movies. She's most likely going to wear Elsa, right? This card brings joy to us. It's a magical card. I absolutely love it. I get giddy thinking about it. And I'm just lucky that I love these cards this much. So that is today's video. Thank you very much for watching. Please let me know your thoughts, and we'll be back with another video soon. Bye, guys.